He says the Labor Party is inclined to support the omnibus bill. Does that please you or come as some kind of relief?
Well, I think it is the appropriate way forward in terms of where we need to take Australia. And I am pleased that Jim Chalmers has indicated that. OK.
This is very much a short-term fix, the budget yesterday. Even the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday that of all the spending, 90% is going to be spent in just the next 2 years. What's the long-term plan here? What's the long-term fix?
Well, I think we've set out our long-term plan for Australia. And I think the fundamental difference between the spending over the next 2 years and what Labor did with the GFC is that we are quite literally ensuring we're front-loading that spending to get us through the crisis. We've cushioned the blow. We now need to ensure we embark on the next phase of our job creation. And then obviously the Prime Minister set out our job maker plan for Australia. The budget that we handed down was a budget that was about job creation, and then some more job creation. We've also set out the very clear priorities that we are focusing on. And in terms of what I focus on, it is very much ensuring that Australians have the skill set that employers need to get them into jobs.
Despite all the handouts, though, how many small businesses do you believe are beyond government help, are beyond saving?
I am always humbled on a daily basis with the resilience of small businesses. They are the backbone of the Australian economy. They employ in excess of 6 million Australians. And that is why we put in place the JobKeeper payment, which has been successful in keeping over 3.5 million Australians connected with the workforce. That was just so important. That is why we supercharged investment in business in the budget on Tuesday night. The government recognises governments don't create jobs, businesses do. We need to put in place the policy framework that businesses are able to lever off to prosper, grow and create more jobs for Australians. And that is why we are just so focused on putting in place those measures that will allow businesses to invest in themselves, to give them that cash flow with the lost carryback. So we are absolutely focused on supercharging small businesses in Australia.
Not going to save them all, though.
Oh, well, that is just the reality of where we are in the COVID-19 pandemic. It is absolutely devastating. Every job lost in Australia, every business that has to close its doors, that is absolutely devastating. But at the same time, the government is putting in place historic levels of support, whether it's for you as an employee, whether it's for you as an employer, or just as an Australian. We have cushioned the blow. The next thing for us, though, is to ensure that we get through the pandemic and emerge on the other side stronger than before. OK, well, a lot of critics had suggested yesterday that there is a disincentive for business to employ people aged over the age of 35. Now, you've got a similar wage subsidy plan that's already in place, which is $10,000 to hire someone aged over 50. Is that working? That is correct. Yes, it is. So over the last few years, it's probably seen around 50,000 older Australians supported into work. And currently there's around 2,500 Australians that are supported by that. So there is already the restart wage subsidy. If you are thinking of employing a mature-aged person, you can absolutely access that restart wage subsidy. So it has been successful. But in terms of the hiring credit for young Australians, this is recognising the scarring effect, that can occur for young people who are disproportionately affected in a recession. And we want to ensure that we get as many of them off welfare and into work. But certainly the restart wage subsidy, it is there. It's up to $10,000 paid over the 6-month period. And it's already seen around 50,000 mature-age Australians get into work. OK. Well, does that hiring credit for young job seekers double up wage subsidies that are already in place? No. So if you're going to be getting that wage subsidy, that is the wage subsidy that you'd apply for. OK.
Do you accept that women have missed out in the budget?
No, I don't. And I think the Prime Minister made it very clear yesterday. This was a budget for all Australians. All Australians are feeling the results of COVID-19. As a woman, if you're in the workforce, you pay tax, you get a tax break. Around 35% of small business owners are women. You will benefit from the lost carryback. You will benefit from the supercharging of the instant asset write-off. You know, if you drive on roads as a woman, we do. You will benefit from our investment in infrastructure. And there were some measures that were specifically for women. And in that regard, I commend Greg Hunt. Being able to list a drug that will assist women who have ovarian cancer, that has just been widely welcomed across Australia. But, you know, the Prime Minister's been very clear. This is a budget for all Australians.
There is only $250 million spent on women in the budget, though. Wouldn't the best measure be to reduce childcare costs?
And again, you are wrong in saying that. They are specific budget items for women. Look at the Skilling Australians, what I'm doing. We've $1.2 billion to incentivise 100,000 new commencements. Any age, any gender. Women will benefit from that. $2.8 billion in terms of supporting apprentices and trainees currently in work. Again, any age, any gender. So I do have to disagree with your characterisation. This is a budget for all Australians. If you are a tax-paying woman, you will get a tax break. If you're a woman in small business, you will benefit from the announcements that we made, in particular the lost carryback and the supercharging of the instant asset write-off. It is a budget for all Australians.
Do you accept, though, that childcare costs are a hindrance for parents and, in particular, women?
Oh, I think when you look at what the government has done, in particular during the pandemic, with childcare, we will invest this year alone around $9 billion in childcare and paying the subsidies. This is a record level of investment. Around 1 million Australian families are benefiting from our childcare package. When you actually break that down, around 72% are actually paying, it's about $5 per hour for childcare. And then there's a subset of that pay $2 per hour. So I would dispute that. I know that Anthony Albanese is looking for a big ticket item tonight, but what you're going to see from Labor tonight in their budget in reply is some big ticket spending items, and the only way they'll be able to pay for them is by raising taxes, and that is just not appropriate.
Well, skills is likely to form part of that speech,
yep.
And apprentices were one of the big winners in yesterday's budget. But Labor makes the point that even though there's been 100,000 new apprentices that have come on, 140,000 have been lost during the course of the coalition government. So do you believe that there is still work to do on that front?
Let's just make one thing very clear. The largest drop in apprentices in any 1 year, 110,000, under the former Labor government. Why? They ripped $1.2 billion out of the system in employer incentives. But worse than that, they decimated the reputation of vocational education and training with their vet fee help. We are still reimbursing student debts. We've paid out over $2 billion as a result of what they did to the system. So I can tell you, when it comes to taking lectures from Labor on vocational education and training, I won't. This year alone, the Morrison government is investing almost $7 billion in ensuring that Australians have the ability to get the skills they need to get into a job.
Just a couple of state matters, Minister, before I let you go. First of all, it looks like the West Australian government is going to be in surplus. Do you believe that that should be a licence to spend for the McGowan government?
I think the better question is, have they done enough to support Western Australians throughout the pandemic? And certainly talking to small business owners in Western Australia, the answer to that would appear to be no. So let's just wait and see what announcement they do make. But I think the question is not about the surplus, more so what have they done to support Western Australians throughout this pandemic. And certainly when I talk to small business owners out there, there has not been a lot coming to them from the McGowan government. OK, and on the small business owners in Queensland, do you think it would be unfair if the clock was reset between Queensland and New South Wales, given there's been 3 new cases of COVID when it comes to community transmission in New South Wales? Look, state governments will make their own decision, but I think the federal government's been very, very clear. You need to live in a COVID-safe economy. And what that means is doing exactly what New South Wales have done, getting the testing, tracking and tracing, right? And I do commend the New South Wales government in that regard. And that is what we all need to move to, living in the COVID-safe economy, reopening those borders, getting people travelling, getting business people being able to do business. And I think that's where we all need to be, regardless of which state or territory we are.